rain tapped gently on the tin roof, its rhythm like a slow, old lullaby. Steady, aching. Outside, Lagos was pulsing, horns honking, hawkers yelling, signs flickering like half-hearted truce. But inside the small hotel room, time had folded into silence. Anna sat at the edge of the bed, fingers trembling slightly as they traced the faint line around her ring finger. The gold band had been there just 2 weeks ago, still gleaming, still warm with meaning. Now it sat at the bottom of her handbag like a buried lie, cold, still, and silent. She wasn't sure what hurt more, that he had taken the ring off, or that she still hadn't. She met Ken at a legal summit in Kaduna. She was delivering a talk on civil liberties. He was there representing his firm. Anna, sharp and composed, had noticed the angle of his smile before the weight of his resume. There was something magnetic about him, how he listened, how he leaned forward with those slow-burning eyes, how he made the crowds seem like background noise. Their first conversation wasn't about law or politics. It was about music. Wizkid, Marvin's record. A little bit of Thames. He asked if she danced. She told him with a knowing grin, "Only when it rains." By the end of that weekend, she was dancing with him under the heavy Kaduna sky, raindrops tangling in her curls, his lips tasting of whiskey and want. They were married 6 months later, in Lagos, a loud, lavish, traditional wedding with lace, hats, dancing, and way too much food. Her father whispered to her as they danced, "I hope this one loves you longer than your mother loved me." She should have listened harder. Ken was everything in the beginning. Thoughtful, attentive. A man who remembered how she liked her tea and who rubbed her ankles after long days in court. But Lagos had a hunger, and Ken had a hunger of his own. Anna started noticing the late nights, the lipstick smudges, the silence that crept in like fog. He always had excuses, so smooth, so plausible. But Anna wasn't naive. She hired a private investigator. She never expected it to feel like betrayal and heartbreak, seeing those pictures. Ken, her husband, half naked in a furnished apartment in Victoria Island that wasn't theirs, with a woman who wasn't her, not just kissing, devouring. That night, her ring felt like fire on her skin. She confronted him the next morning. No drama, just evidence, laid out on the table like exhibits in a courtroom. Ken didn't even flinch. "Look," he said, sipping whiskey at 9 a.m., like it was water. "It's not love, it's just sex. It means nothing." Anna looked at him, something ancient and angry rising in her throat. "The ring," she whispered. "It meant something to me." Ken glanced up, eyes once molten, now steel. "Then I guess it meant more to you than it did to me." She left that night, heels striking the marble floor like war drums. She checked into a boutique hotel in Lekki, the kind where no one asked too many questions. That's where she met Chris, tall, beard like velvet, a writer, a man who didn't look at her like she was broken, but like she was poetry he wanted to memorize. They met at the hotel bar. One drink turned into two. Then he asked why a beautiful woman looked like the sky had wept in her. She didn't tell him about Ken, or the ring, or the war between her ribs. She just said, "I need to forget something." He didn't pry. He just kissed her, slow and sure, like he was carving a prayer into her lips. The sex was slow, tender, sacred. Chris treated her body like a secret he'd waited a decade to learn. She bit his shoulder when she came, and he held her like she was breaking open, not falling apart. There were no games, no power plays, just two people needing to be seen. Afterward, tangled in sheets and shadows, she told him everything. About Ken, the lies, the ring in her purse, her almost divorce. Chris didn't pull away. He kissed her shoulder and whispered, Then let me show you what it means to be chosen. She went home after a week. Ken didn't ask where she'd been. He didn't care. Their silence had become an ocean. No boats, no bridges. She filed for separation. In Legos that made headlines and whispers. Church ladies stared longer. Colleagues blinked slower. But Anna was unshaken. She had rediscovered herself. Chris visited often, quietly, lovingly. They exchanged books, lyrics, slow mornings. He loved her gently, never asking for more than she could give. She wore no ring now, only a steady smile and freedom in her eyes. 6 months after the divorce, Ken called. His voice was husky. He wanted to meet. Out of curiosity, not forgiveness, she agreed. They met at a quiet cafe in Victoria Island. He looked thinner, worn. Regret sat on his shoulders like a coat. He pushed something across the table, her old wedding ring. "I found it in the drawer," he said. "I thought maybe you'd want it." Anna looked at it. That gold circle, that lie. She touched it lightly, then slid it back. "You kept breaking the circle before it could shine," she said. Ken frowned. "It's a riddle," she said softly. "A ring is a promise made with a circle. But for some, it breaks before it shines." He nodded slowly. "It's shone for me, for a while." She shook her head. "Number you mistook the spark for a fire, but I found the flame after you." That night she walked through the streets of Lecky with the wind in her scarf and peace in her stride. Legos shimmered around her, chaotic and beautiful. Chris was waiting at her apartment, leaning against the doorway with a bouquet of white lilies. He smiled the way men smile when they've waited without impatience. "You look free," he said. She smiled back. "I am." He reached into his pocket, pulling out a small velvet box. Her breath hitched. Inside wasn't a ring. It was a necklace, a thin gold chain with a broken circle charm. "A reminder," he said, "that some promises are just the path to better ones." She leaned in, her lips finding his with a kind of love that didn't need permission. And in that moment, Anna knew. The ring had meant nothing to Ken, but she meant everything to herself. If you enjoyed this story, like this video to help us reach more people, share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more beautiful stories like this. For now, catch you on the next one.